Hey there, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the show. My name is John Henry Soto, and as always, I have Mr. George Batista with me. I'm actually in the middle of trying to click on something, so I'm a little bit. All right, well, I'll figure it out when I figure it out. There we are.
Hey,
So I'm just trying to get my. Oh, here it is, right here.
the
Boom.
universe is not cooperating.
The universe is not cooperating. What is happening? Oh,
No.
I forgot my hat.
Oh,
Hi, remember me? I haven't worn this in a while. I thought I would wear this today.
nice.
So, welcome everybody. Welcome to the show. As always, we are very excited to have you here, and we appreciate you taking the time to spend with us. And we have a we have a very interesting conversation that kind of just came pretty quickly as a decision that George just said, "Hey, why don't we talk about?" And I said, "Yeah, why not?" I always love to have conversations about things that are unique, things that are different, things that are, you know, push the envelope, things that make us think and ask questions about stuff. And I thought, well, this would be an interesting, multiple universes and the metaphysical possibilities.
It's not a
Just a
big
simple
subject at all.
subject. Yeah, just a simple subject for us to talk about. But I think it's a fun topic because we just basically George and I basically just did a little show for about 15 minutes where we just talked about the subject and very interesting developments can come from this subject because we're really we don't know a lot. We do know some, but we don't know a lot. And there's some really brilliant men and women out there that are figuring things out and piecing things together and getting people closer to understand the connection between the physical and the metaphysical and spiritual and the whole material universe that surrounds us, right? So there are some people that are kind of coming up with some of those questions and stuff. So and some answers. Of course, a lot of this is still in the theory, and that's where we have to. That's where we currently are. It's in the theory, but it's okay. Hello, everybody on TikTok. Welcome. I'm getting a lot of people there. All right,
All
right
right.
on.
Yeah.
Um, so just wanted to. We don't have any. What I was saying, we don't have any sponsors right now, but we are here. And so, George, first of all, I always start the show and then I say how you doing, find out how you doing. I
I'm
like
I'm
back there.
I'm great. And just so you guys know, if you guys are have seen our past shows, one of the reasons we wanted to do this because I was telling John that we've solved many of the mysteries of the past. We solved JFK.
Yeah,
We've solved the pyramids.
the moon landing
The
was
moon landing. So I figured, okay, John,
done.
let's tackle the mysteries of the universe and
Yeah,
multiverse and all this type of stuff. Because John
yeah.
and I are just we tackle this stuff head on.
Listen, we want to give you answers to the universe. We want to,
Absolutely.
we thought, okay, yeah, we did. We solved the pyramids. We solved the moon landing. What was the other one? The other stuff
Now the
that we
pyramid. No, pyramids, moon landing, and JFK.
JFK, we solved that as well. Um, and we thought, you know what? Why don't we tackle something a little bit different, a little bit bigger, and let's just do the whole universe. So here we go. We're gonna do that. Now, just full transparency, I have a cough, and every once in a while I start coughing. So if I mute myself and I just have George talk for a second, that's what it is. Because it happens, especially if I'm talking a lot, which
Which is all the
generally when
time.
you yeah, which generally is a lot, and then when you're doing a show that has your name on it, you probably have to do some of the talking.
Was that a mistake to do? I don't know.
I don't know. But anyway, before we get started, one of the things that we were talking about was string theory.
Mm.
Now,
Well,
string theory is very interesting. If you don't know what string theory is, or you don't understand what it is, I'm going to play a video right now from Brian Greene, who's a brilliant physicist, and he's going to explain to us what it is. So just hang tight, and let's see if I can. All right. We see that? Good.
Yes.
And here we go.
Imagine I have a beautiful tree that's filled with oranges. And I ask myself, what is the orange made of? How do I answer that question? Well, I want to look deeply inside the orange, so I magnify it. And I magnify it again. And if I keep on doing it, deep inside, sooner or later, I begin to see molecules come into view. But molecules are not the end of the story, because the molecules, I can enlarge them. And if I make them big enough deep inside, I begin to see atoms. Atoms are not the end of the story too, because we have electrons zooming around the nucleus. Deep inside, mostly empty space in the atom, but deep inside, we see the nucleus. So if I grab that and magnify it, I see that the nucleus is itself made of particles, neutrons and protons. And if I grab one of the neutrons and magnify it, I find yet further particles, little tiny quarks inside. Now that is where the conventional ideas stop. String theory comes along and suggests that inside these particles there is something else. So if I take a little quark and I magnify it, conventional idea says there's nothing inside, but string theory says I'll find a little tiny filament, a little filament of energy, a little string-like filament. And just like the string on a violin, I pluck it and it vibrates, creates a little musical note that I can hear. The little strings in string theory, when they vibrate, they don't produce musical notes, they produce the particles themselves. So a quark is nothing but a string vibrating in one pattern. An electron is nothing but a string vibrating in a different pattern. A neutrino, nothing but a string vibrating in a different pattern still. So if I take all of this back together, I have my ordinary orange, and if these ideas are right, they are speculative, but if they are right, deep inside the orange or any other piece of matter is nothing but a dancing, vibrating cosmic symphony of strings. That's the basic idea of string theory.
Wow. Amazing. And by the way, I went to a restaurant the other day and I found a string in my food, so I was very upset.
Oh, really?
No,
Well, there's your string.
But it is it is fascinating.
Yeah, but when he said the vibration, that to me is really, I believe that is the case, because I think everything, there's a vibration to everything. There's a vibration to your voice. There's a vibration to your body movements. There's a vibration to everything that you do. There's a vibration, and I believe that would make sense. Especially being a musician.
Yeah.
Because music. I heard this thing with Paul McCartney once. He was talking about how vibrations and music, and how these vibrations do something to us, spiritually, or, even physically. Music heals, right?
Yeah.
But there's something to the vibration that we hear, because it's not just lyrics. You can hear a song and the lyrics are amazing, but when you hear just a piece of beautiful classical music, that gets you, so it's not just the words, it's actually the vibrations that the music is doing. So that to me would really make sense, that it would have, the string theory thing,
Yeah, and it's and Sean Manuel says I'm picking up good vibrations. Absolutely. Yeah. And that's why we try to provide on this show, by the way.
Yeah.
But here and you're right. So, but it's not only that, also people vibrate. Right? We know about, and there's that old thing where somebody walks in the room and there's an energy to that person.
Correct.
There's either a negative energy or a positive energy, and you can feel it. Okay, so it's like the music also, right? Because you can feel the music, but you could also feel that person's energy.
Correct.
And that and it to me, it's absolutely 100%, because there are times where you feel that, feel it, and maybe you can't explain it, but you can just feel it.
Yeah, and that whole thing of when somebody, when you meet somebody, and we're not talking romantic here. We're not talking there's obviously chemistry between men and women and stuff like that. I think that that's a separate thing what I'm talking about. But there's also like when you just really vibe with somebody.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just like George and I are cousins. We were raised together, but we were like friends.
Yeah.
Because our humor was the same, or we love the same kind of music. We started a band together, a few bands, and it was just the vibration was there. We clinged, in that way. When I met my wife, I say the same, the story about meeting my wife, and she was doing when people sell vitamins and stuff like that. So she was having one of these parties at her house, and I was the only one that showed up, and it was a presenter, that was doing the vitamin presentation. When we were sitting there on the couch and this woman was talking to us, there was something that happened between us where we felt like we were very comfortable in that space, like the energies were there,
Mm-hmm.
So there's something to it when it comes, and that's why string theory to me, I can dig it. You know what I mean? I can dig with that vibrations on a very, very, very small level in quantities. You go to a show. We've been to Rush concerts, right? And a lot of it, but also classical music or just in the house with soft jazz in the back. Same thing, it's that thing. So so I think that that's really an important thing to look at. Now you start getting into where else are these vibrations? Where else in the universe do these go? Go, George.
So, thanks, John.
I'm gonna mute myself for a second. I'm gonna cough.
Okay. Yeah, and John's right. I mean, there's so many new theories now that have come out that are trying to explain and try to go beyond where this is going. Okay. One of the things that we're, that's the title of this and that they're talking about now is this whole issue. And it's funny because you're hearing it, in sci-fi, right? This idea of multiverse, right? But the idea of a multiverse, and we'll talk about it as well, what exactly it is. But the idea of a multiverse goes back centuries. There is actually text talking about different. We're talking about Greek philosophy has talked about it, and many different ones going down the road. And then of course we have Star Trek, right? 1960s. There was that one episode where there was the parallel universe, right?
Yep.
So
no, that was that the enemy.
No, it wasn't the enemy within. It was why am I forgetting the name of the? But it's a great episode where that's that's the universe where John doesn't have a beard.
Right.
And,
yeah. And I have long hair and I don't have a beard. And George is short. And I'm tall. But it's interesting though that because I don't know if you ever think about this, and I think about this sometimes. Like when you're, I'm a guy that if I want to try to do something, 90% of the times I'm going to try to go do whatever that thing is, right? But if you don't, and then something else happens, sometimes you wonder, man, what if I would have done that?
Right.
Or what if I would have done that? Or what if I didn't miss that bus? Or what if I did catch the ball? Or if I missed it, or if I didn't miss it. So that's this universe.
Yes.
But is there another universe where I'm also there, but maybe making some of the decisions that I wouldn't make this lifetime or here?
Right. And it's a crazy idea. You know what I'm saying? So there's different levels to it in physics. And again, not that I'm an expert or anything like that, but I was telling John that I passively have looked into this a lot just to, because I just find this stuff fascinating. So like there's like a lower tier that they've talked about, whereas, and now we're going to talk about it through the idea of the expanding universe, right? Because the way the physicists look at the universe, right? So we know that the universe is expanding and they can see that, right? It's called hyperinflation, even though we have a lot of inflation now, but there's inflation going on. But So the idea is the universe so big that there's other universes out there that we can't even grasp that are very similar to ours. So that's kind of like the first layer of it, right? And then the second layer of it is, okay, we bring it closer. So now we have the particles. Is there a universe that's literally like parallel to ours, right? And when they look at, again, the expansion of the universe, at one point they say, the physicists are saying, that everything was together and that kind of exploded out into this thing. But many of these things were together and then popped out into different universes. But is there a parallel, that a universe that's right next door, that they touch each other every once in a while, which they say explains, or they think they say explains, the deja vu thing, by the way. Right? So that's like another level. And then there's a third level where, or the fourth level, I don't remember exactly which, but there's another level where no, the universe is with the parallel universe is literally within us. So right now, you and I are sitting here, and I'm sitting here on this computer, but in another universe, in this very spot, there's a dinosaur walking by. Okay? Hate when that happens. I think I got John on that one. So the idea is that, that there's things going on that are also within everything that we're doing. Okay. And what John was saying was, okay, so if you make a decision, right? So if you decide to ask the girl out on a date versus not doing it, okay, let's say you ask her out on a date, does that create, and in their eyes, they say it creates another universe where you don't do it, that type of thing. And where does and that can happen infinitely. Now, the question would be, for my question, why the hell would that happen? And what, I mean, again, we're trying to say what the purpose is. We don't know what the purpose is, but, that means that every decision at every point that everybody makes, there's an equal and opposite other decision that they didn't take that creates another universe.
Right. Well, if you look at decisions are energy driven. They're energy,
Yes.
Energy driven. So that energy comes out. Energy has to go somewhere.
Correct.
So when you're making a decision, there's a decision it tells you that there's more than one way you can go about it.
Sure.
So I'm sorry. Give me a second.
Decide not to cough. How about that?
This has been going on for 3 days, and it's really annoying.
Yes.
So, what was I saying? Oh yeah,
decisions. Oh.
So yeah, I was actually not going to do a show today, but I was like, nah, I want to talk about this. So let's say you have 3 decisions. One is the one you made, but you did have the energy of the other 2. The energy has been created because when you thought of something, energy,
you put it out,
was created.
Yes.
Whether you did it or not. Is that energy so powerful? Because we're very powerful spiritual beings that we don't give each other enough credit of how powerful we are.
Mm-hmm.
Is it possible that that energy is so powerful in our decision that the one that we actually go with is the one that we kind of are remember, but the ones we didn't go with also continue in some way because the energy took it that way because we thought about it. And it's sort of like, energy. Frank Sinatra, 1968, Madison Square Garden, in the round. He comes out by himself, holding a cigarette and a glass of some, of his whiskey, whatever it was.
Yeah.
What the hell?
Yes.
The energy is just incredible. You know what I mean? It's like something he's putting out, whether it's his confidence, it's something, right? And you see artists that have that, right?
Right.
You can go Michael Jackson, Elvis, Prince, you can go down the list and see all that stuff. That cannot be manufactured.
Correct.
Now, they try to manufacture it by taking someone and then cleaning them up and then putting a lot of money behind them, and you see them out there and they're doing their thing. But there's really nothing, it's all manufactured stuff. You know what I mean? You don't feel the same way that when you watch a clip from Sinatra or Elvis Presley or one of these guys, taking the stage, right? And that's not only in music, but also in acting. It's like some of these characters jump off the screen. Like Al Pacino. Young Al Pacino is incredible. I mean, when Godfather and all those classic films, there's something about him that just comes right out. I saw Al Pacino in real life once, actually twice, but the second time I actually took a picture of him, and he came out, and it was so strange because I got like chills, and it's just he's a man,
right?
You know what I mean? He's a man, but there was just something. He came out and he was signing autographs, and he was kind of talking to people. How y'all doing? Everybody good? Everybody good? And he's signing autographs, and I thought, I'm short, right? So I can't go to where everybody was standing to try to get a photo, and I ran across the street, and I had my nice camera. I took it out, I fixed it all up, put it on, and I went in the street, and then the car that he was getting into, I went right to the hood of the car. And I was like, all right, Al. And he looked at me and he smiled, and he was smiling. I took poop and I got a perfect shot of him. And it's like one of my prized shots, because he just kind of looked at me. He was like, hey, and it was just like, but that energy, whatever it is that he possesses, I'm sure he doesn't even know what it is. I mean, he's so modest when he gets interviewed, but same thing with Jimi Hendrix, and, people would see Jimmy walk into the room and be like, holy cow, who is this guy? And it was just, there was something about this guy, so we're talking about energy, we're talking about energy, and, energies can go in many, many different directions. We don't fully understand that, there's ways that we can measure energies. There's meters, there's things that can actually see energies. You can see a thought, you can see those things, and that's been documented already. We do know that is a thing, right? But how far does that energy go?
Right.
That's the thing, and we may not be able to even see it. And like you said, it can go into many different areas that we just don't even know. There could be decisions that we thought about making that we forgot about that are still out there somewhere,
Right, correct.
And there may be a perfect path for each individual, a perfect path. Every single decision can be calculated to get the individual up to a to a state of higher awareness, whatever it is. That path, there might be an actual perfect path but we get, we decide to quit that job, or we don't take the job that we should have taken, or we get married to the wrong person, or you marry or that person married the wrong person,
right.
You married the wrong person, and now you're in the wrong situation. You thought it was right, but now it's not right. And now, you know what I mean? There's all these different factors that come into play. So the energy part of it has to be really, we have to look at that. We have to kind of like think, are these other universes being created by us? Are we the other universe? Is it that close to us that I have another John Henry Soto doing something else, being married to somebody else, or doing another thing over here, or being married to my current wife, but maybe in different situations. Maybe we didn't, maybe we have an extra child. Maybe we don't have an extra child. All these things that you just have to think about is like, is it that close to us, that other universe that we're talking about?
And then you can go further, because then that leads to a whole bunch of other questions, right? What about the idea of, where people think that where life is predetermined?
Right. Now you're talking some of it religion.
Some of it, right. Some of it from the religious philosophies, or,
Right.
that type of thing, because there are, whatever the case may be. But, it leads you into other things.
Right.
And then, but the other question, and John and I, you and I have talked about this, so we talk about the decision, but who's the decision maker?
Well, you would think it'd be the individual.
Right, but who is the individual?
Right. So we're spiritual beings. I believe that. We're not our bodies. My body this time here this is my body, a short little Puerto Rican. My name is John Henry Soto. That's my name.
Label.
That's my label. That's what I've been labeled. And I've made decisions based on that, and others have made their decisions based on that.
Right.
So, but the decisions that we make, and I say we, the individual, right? There's the awareness of the awareness, right? Being aware of being aware.
Yes.
If you're aware of being aware, and you know that you're in a body, and you know that you're a musician or a creator or just an artistic, spiritual creating person, and you're aware that you have different options, right? Then the options that you pick, this is why people who make bad decisions all the time, you see somebody, and sometimes you'll advise somebody and you say, maybe you shouldn't go do that again. He goes, yeah, I'm not going to do that. And they go do it again.
Yes.
You start thinking, well, obviously there's a certain unawareness of this individual. This person is not aware enough to know that decision leads to bad things. It's sort of like, people who do drugs, right? Well, there's something, right? You don't start off doing drugs, right? You have to progress to it.
Right, correct.
There has to be the first time for everything.
Make the decision to do it the first time, right? Correct.
And there could be a lot of stress in the person's life. It could be some type of an abuse. It could be also a mental illness of some sort. But there had to be that first time. I would think that at this stage of society that we know that doing drugs are bad.
Mm-hmm.
It's all over the schools. We talk about it. Now, I know that there's a lot of drug use, but at a certain age, all kids generally know, you and I certainly did, know that drugs are bad. And that if you do drugs, it leads you down a bad path, right? Mm-hmm. So, but there's still that one decision that individual has to make. And that individual at the time when he makes that decision is not on drugs.
Right.
He's not on drugs, or she's not on drugs. They're maybe going through some stress. Maybe there's a peer pressure situation, whatever the case may be. That moment is an energy that who knows where it leads.
Correct.
Who knows if that person decides, who knows if I grew up in the South Bronx, right? I had a lot of friends that did drugs. I had a lot of friends that sold drugs, right? I never did either one of those. But what if I did one day? Mm-hmm. What if I did one time, I did some kind of drug or something, and would I be sitting here today?
Right.
You don't know, because that one thing, that one decision might have led to a second dumb decision and a third dumb decision. And then a fourth dumb decision. And then by that time, I'm already gone and I can't make proper decisions anymore because I'm not me. Right. I'm chemical me.
Yeah.
And God knows clean me is bad enough. Chemical me, I have no idea what the hell this idiot's going to do or behave.
True. But it's interesting how the decision... It's like, they talked about a lot of these physicists talked about, if that were the case, that there were infinite possibilities in every decision, right?
Yeah.
So there are other universes where the Germans won the war, where the Nazis won the war, let's say, and we're all speaking German or that type of thing, right? But it's interesting how your decision can, which is that energy, start a chain reaction down the line that can influence other people's decisions, which eventually over time can influence other people, what they call the butterfly effect, right? The butterfly flaps his wings and eventually creates a hurricane across the planet.
Right.
Right? But it starts with the butterfly. right? So you see, we see this in, the folks who have really made change in the world, right? The Martin Luther Kings of the world, the Gandhis of the world, and these types of, they made that decision with that energy, but they made that decision. I mean, if you think about it, I mean, they made a decision and they had an awareness that a lot of people didn't have, right? And they created this ripple effect to the point where they influenced so many other people with just that one decision.
Right.
Which is, it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
an
I
amazing
mean,
thing.
it is true. And it's also that decision inspires others around them.
Correct.
And that gets projected.
Yes.
That's what happens, right? You get one guy or gal that's very influential and has that energy and makes that decision and communicates it properly, and everyone duplicates it
Yeah.
to the degree that they want to get out that message as well.
Right.
They start their own, and so they start amplifying that energy, and that's where you have those greats doing those things, like like Martin Luther King and Gandhi and James T. Kirk. These great individuals
He's a great man.
that just changed the way we look at things, the way we perceive,
Absolutely.
So, but there's also higher dimensions that we talk about also, right? So,
Mhm.
You can say that there's a higher dimension, like we're at this dimension here,
Right.
and then right above us there's another dimension that we might at some point, some physicists say, we might be able to go back and forth through quantum physics and through certain technologies,
or wormholes and stuff like that.
wormholes and stuff like
Yeah.
that. Yeah, that we might be able to go to that. Einstein had a little bit of that theory, and stuff, and I think some other ones. One of the things that they say is that because space bends,
Yes.
right? And so if you have this is out there, but it's not impossible because it is part of this theory, right? And if you go and you fly to and you go out to another planet and you come back, you might be the same age the planet would have gone through a certain age, right? That's like a theory, right, that they have, right? So that means that if the universe bends, that means that if you're here, you can go from here to here across the bend and skip that whole thing if you find a way, a wormhole or some other the 6 train or whatever you get from one place to the other. That there is a possibility that you can do that. There is that possibility because of certain, again, quantum physics, which gets really deep into, crazy stuff. If you really want to take a nap, just go online and he said a drive-through. Yeah, just there'll be a drive-through from one dimension to the next. Now these dimensions may not include. It may include a planet just like this, but it may be completely different. It may be like there's the two-party system may not exist. It may be just a one world leader.
Right.
It may be or it may be that they don't even need political system. It also may be that they don't. The way we look at the laws of physics on this planet or in this dimension may not apply in that dimension.
Correct.
It may. You may go there and they'll no gravity there.
Right.
Everybody just floats. Everybody just moves. They have their own thruster. They fart their ways through the very but maybe they don't even have a way, but they can get there. Maybe their minds do it or whatever it is that they do. Maybe they don't. There's no light. Everything is dark, but their eyes they've adjusted senses. Maybe they're like bats. Bats have a sonar. Maybe there's a sonar driven place. They can lift limestone. Yeah,
that's right.
That's right.
Which we solved, by the way.
We solved that already. That's old news. That's in our. We solved the pyramids. You can go look at that episode. Handled. Yeah. But these different dimensions, may contain completely, may have different style of music. The music may be like, you know what I mean? Their music may be completely
That's the way
different.
music is now. What are you talking about?
Yeah, no, it's top 40. Top 40 is like, yeah, yeah. So you have to kind of like let go of
Yes.
everything that you think is the way things are now, and then think and open yourself up to the possibilities that maybe people fly in another dimension. Maybe there's no fossil fuels to fund any kind of vehicle. We have to get around vehicles, right? So now we have electric cars, we got airplanes, we got ships, we got trains and trucks and cars and bikes and all that, because we got to get our bodies from one place to the next.
Right.
Maybe in this dimension they don't have that issue. They can get from one place to the next pretty easy. Right. Maybe they have a good Uber system or whatever they have, but they have something that gets them from one place to the next that's not as tasking as like what we're currently needing to do. So if you're able to drop the idea of everything that you think is the way life is, then you have a possibility of learning quantum physics like I have. And learning about all the laws of physics of the universe. And getting and understanding string theory and the vibrations and all that stuff, and the good vibrations, like Sean picking up good vibrations. All that stuff is but you have to get to that point.
Yeah, and that's the thing, because that's part of the problem, because we're not really, as a society, again, conditioned for that.
Right? Well, they don't teach any of this in school. I mean, we get a little bit of science in school. I think we learned about the planets.
Mm-hmm.
We learned about gravity, and Newton got hit in the head with an apple. That happened, and that's pretty much the extent of it. Anybody who's really interested in science, well, then they have to go and pursue that on their own later on. But through school, I think school, what happens is that we're not going to go into the whole school system because we've already covered that. You know what it is. It's built, it's to create workers. But if there were a way that we could have young people think for themselves in a school setting, keep giving them the stuff that you're giving them, all the nonsense that they're not going to use, but give them also another option of something that they will use. Give them an idea, like, do you want to learn about science, like go into deep science? Do you want deep mathematics? Do you want, and they should have a curriculum special for a child that decides he wants a specific thing. He wants to learn about geography. He wants to learn about the whole planet. I want to learn about, anthropology or something. And he wants to learn about all the different cultures in the world. And then that's a roadmap that the child, he'll do all the same stuff, calculus and algebra stuff he'll never use, and learn about social studies and learn about history stuff and all that stuff. But now if he's interested in history, he's like, I love history. I'm fascinated with all history. That's a path. So I would love to see the school system come up with that and call it like a roadmap. Like, what's your roadmap? Well, my roadmap is I'm doing this school, but I'm focusing on math. I'm focusing on science. If they would do that, there'd be a lot more scientists.
True.
Because kids, when they're young, man, they want to know. They love science. So a lot of kids will get into science, and they'll be on that roadmap, and then we'll have a lot of geniuses coming up with their own theories, and some of them even solving them. I think that's what we really need. All roads lead to John's beard.
Yes, very true. There's a lot. I think there's multiple universes in John's beard, by the way, just so you know.
At least 3 that I can feel.
Exactly. And but no, yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, they should do that. And now mathematics obviously is big for physicists, because they use the mathematics to do the calculations, stuff like that. Sure. But at the end of the day, some philosophers who say they're not physicists necessarily, but they're more spiritual philosophers would say, well, we are the universe. The universe, like you talk about awareness of being aware, right? Well, at our core, we are awareness trying to figure it out what awareness is.
Right. Right.
Really, that
that is what. Yeah, that is. I mean, that's Plato, Socrates, all those guys talked about that. Those were probably Socrates the most was the first person to kind of like look at things and say like, are we really here?
mhm.
Am I really here right now? Are you really here? Is this really happening to us?
Right.
Or are we all just or am I just having a hallucination in somewhere and I made everyone up in my mind? Or is George having a hallucination and I'm just a figment of his imagination and this whole thing is not real and weird? You know what I mean?
Yep.
So these philosophers kind of were the first ones that kind of brought that to our attention.
Correct.
And I think that it's or is it a paradox as it could be?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Could
I
be.
mean, and I think that that's part of the equation that we have to kind of look at,
Yeah.
when we're especially when we're trying to come up with decisions ourselves individually.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to always be second guessing yourself because of this, because it could drive you mad.
Yes.
This is why astrology is so big, and people will read their horoscope and be like, "Oh my God, spot on." Well, what do you mean spot on? What does that mean? You know what I mean? Like, because that 4 million people just read that same thing that were born on that same day.
Right. Exactly.
So is it spot on for 4 million people? Well, that's pretty obvious. There was a test where they not a test, it was actually a trick, but they took horoscopes and they switched them all around.
Mhm.
They put them out and people were like, yep, that's spot on. That's definitely not, and it was all mixed up. So there was no order to it. You know what I mean? So, the whole thing with right now, I had a lot of people on my social media, friends of mine, and I don't know much about it. So I'm not like criticizing what they're doing or believe. But the whole Mercury was in retrograde and there was this big thing happening right now. A lot of things were changing and stuff like that. I don't know. What I do know is that when the moon is either closer to the earth or there's a little bit more, the moon has a tremendous amount of gravitational pull. It also affects our oceans. Our oceans are water. We're water. There's a lot of blood and water in us, right? I mean, our whole system, what they call the lymphatic system, is all basically liquid moving around our bodies.
Right.
So does that create an effect? It could. It easily could. I mean, why not? When it starts raining, and people get their joints, their joints are, well, the humidity is high and maybe it affects their joints because of they have already swelling, they already have inflammation, and maybe that just affects it even more. So there's a lot of things that we look at and we kind of just say, yeah, that's what it is, but we don't really look to see why is that. How does that really affect those around us? How does that affect us? How is that real? How did it get to this point? What's the history of this? And that part of it, I think, is really important because it makes it so much easier when you know the background of something like religion, for instance. I study a lot about religions. I go back to them, to the back, to see where they come. Oh, okay, that's awesome. I love that. And I love the how it progressed to where it is, and it's helping people and inspiring people, whatever that may be. The government, we look at our government and we look at the presidents and you look, okay, we have 6 presidents, right? And we're looking at them. We're saying, well, how can we go back and read about every single president and what they did and how they got to the next one and what was the drama going on back then, and just study it. People are just so quick to just turn on CNN and then that's the world. Turn on CNBC or turn on Fox and that's the world. And then I'm like, if you really, really believe that you're being told the exact truth of what the world is, then you're an idiot. You're just a complete idiot. And I have a bridge in Brooklyn that I'd love to sell you and some land in Florida because you are being taken. We have to be responsible enough to research all these things. And when it comes to even this, like the dimensions and, metaphysical appearances here and there, if you go and you study, because if you look at it overall, like just us talking, none of it makes sense.
Of course.
Right? You can just be like, no, none of this makes sense. You know what makes sense? Tomorrow, I have to get up early. I got to take my son to school. Then I'm going to go maybe get some food. Then I'm going to take a drive and get some gas. And then I'm going to call up my friend. You know what I mean? That's what people are. It's real to people, but you ask somebody to look at, let's look at other dimensions for a second. Let's look at your decisions. Are your decisions, or are the decisions that you make because of an experience you had in the past that someone influenced you to behave that way? And that's not really you. Are you being manipulated by past influences, whether they're good or bad? Sometimes it could be good. I'm influenced because my grandpa was a good man, so I want to be a good man. Good. But what if my grandpa was not a good man? And that's stuck in my head. And do I treat people the way I want to be treated? And do I treat people the way, is it me treating people or am I being influenced? This is the way you should treat people. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
If people would take more responsibility for that, I think it would make the world a better place. And they would also be more confident because now they know what they're looking at. They know they can look at the news and be like, I know what that is. I know that manipulation. I know what the food industry is doing to our food. I know about seed oils now. I know about eggs are good for you. Beef is good for you. Beef tallow is good for you. Cooking with beef. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The water is being poisoned. Why do I know these things? I researched it. I looked. I studied that. I was like, oh wow. And it's not just I'm taking somebody's word for it. It's like I'm seeing scientific things that are proven. Here is the science. Here it is this. Here it is this. Good, bad. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that part of it is really
Well,
important.
I agree. Tomorrow is today, but
But what?
where have I heard that before?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. But I think part of the issue for humans, okay, is in order for the average person who grows up, however they grow up, they have to suspend their belief in what they are conditioned to believe in order to question something else, right? So we have to. If I grow up I grew up a Catholic. If I grew up from a religious perspective, now I have to be able to, as I get older, to question and say, well, let me look at this.
Yeah.
And let me look at the universe, and let me look at what the physicists are saying and see if there's anything there, but that means that I have to question, which means I have to push what I've always believed aside. Right. It's very difficult to do. And again, you could look at that when you're talking about the CNNs and talking about health, you're talking about any industry. You have to suspend what you've been told and kind of look at the problem is, again, we're not conditioned to do that. We're not, we're hyper focused and hyper, conditioned to believe a specific thing. Okay.
Right.
Now, again, looking at to me, going back to when you talked about the spiritual being, right? This is where you and I talked about it, where the religions of the world and the religious philosophies of the world, in my view, got it right, because all of them have realized that there's something more than the physical, right?
Correct.
So we were chatting a little bit about it. Now, so they have that piece where this is where the physicists don't believe any of that, where they believe, no, we're just stuff. everything that happens is a coincidence. This body that works in perfect harmony, the universe that works in perfect harmony, which is exactly like the body,
Mhm.
you know, is just a coincidence, right?
Right.
And now I believe, this is my opinion, that everything is connected to everything else. I think that every particle in this universe is connected to every other particle.
Like Microsoft.
Correct. and so, I don't know what that means, but yeah, so that's the way I believe. So I think that everything, there is always an effect, just like it's an intelligent design. Yes. Now, who designed it? I have no idea. Okay. That's,
Sinatra.
Sinatra could have designed it. He was brilliant, by the way. But, but again, you have to be willing to suspend those beliefs.
Right.
And it's very difficult to do.
Yeah, and I think to that point, there's one thing that all religions have in common, right? I mean, the common denominator has always been that there is a spirit, that there's something else,
Right.
right? So there are way more people on this planet that believe that than believe what the physicists only believe. You know, now there are some physicists that are having a little bit of a different views, because of course they have the Big Bang theory, and that was a big thing. And who had the Big Bang? Well, God, or whatever they think, but you can't look at what you said. You can't look at this perfectly designed situation that we're in this little marble floating through space, and our bodies and the way our bodies work, and our minds and our consciousness, and the love that we have for other humans, and the music that we've created, the beautiful things that we've built on this planet, all that stuff. You can't just look at that and say that that was just from the mud, and that there's nothing else to it. There's no godly thing to it. That's I that's where I have a problem with it. It's like there is the spirituality, and there is the physical planet that we're on, and there is a connection between both of them. That connection, the physicists haven't really found that connection as of yet, but it is there, and it is known, but they haven't really pieced it together. So what's the best that they have? It's like they got dimensions and string theory, and they have, there's a lot of different things, but they're not really getting to the point of like, well, explain love.
Right.
Is love really just a chemical in our brains that just makes us feel that? You really think that love is that? Because when you put a person in like one of those MRI kind of machines, and you get a scan of their brain, when they're listening to a certain piece of music, something happens in that brain that nothing else can do it. It changes the structure. It changes the chemicals that are released, and it's not. It has to be something in us. I know that it's a spiritual being. I know that we're spiritual beings first. We're spiritual beings having a physical body experience, right? Yes. And we have our minds. Our minds are not where we live. Our minds are basically the computer that kind of stores some of the memories, but ultimately they're stored in a spiritual being. You don't have a spirit, you are a spirit.
Right.
This is what I know to be true. And when you are able to pull aside the ideas that have been driven to us, and this is why media is so dangerous right now, because they build these narratives, and they push these things that really 20 years ago people would just laugh you out, and today people are actually believing it 100%.
Yes.
And it's sort of like just saying, we don't trust that you can think anymore, so we're going to think for you, and we're going to think really dumb things, and you're going to believe them because you're a dummy, and we're going to control you, and then we're going to get you to fight those that don't believe it, because I'm a Kennedy Democrat. That's what I tell people. I'm not a Democrat now, but that's what I am. Go listen to his speeches. Go listen to Martin Luther King.
Mm-hmm.
Hell, go listen to first term Obama. Go listen to even Bill Clinton. You know what I mean? Listen to some of these speeches that they gave, whatever, 20 years ago now, 30 years ago, 50 years ago with JFK. I mean, this is part of like this is the ridiculous conversations that we have sometimes. And why is it that, this topic that you and I are talking about, we can't get society to look at that.
No.
They're confused about, well, I'm not even going to say it, but they're confused about basic biology things that have been shocking. I mean, shocking, and the whole sports events and what's happening in sports and what's happening, with our children and our schools and all that stuff. I mean, we're dealing with like such ridiculous things now that the media makes it okay, and it pushes that narrative, Why? And then they take religion out of the schools.
Mhm.
They take the Pledge of Allegiance. Now it's back in, but they were trying to take the Pledge of Allegiance out
Yeah.
because it says God, and whatever, and it's so there's some evil person is trying to suppress spirituality and this conversation of other universes and really looking at the metaphysical world that we're currently in, and the ones that possibly exist. We have smart men and women that are having this conversation.
Yes.
I mean, these are not dummies. I mean, on the other side, when you look at the media stuff, those are dummies.
Right.
You can't have a conversation with them because they just brush you off, or they'll just call you names.
Yeah.
Right. Now you have these incredibly intelligent man. I mean, imagine if Einstein was alive today. He had some great talks and he had some great content, and Martin Luther King, and what would he say about this? Would he be swinging on that side? Going on CNN and pushing this narrative? Would John F. Kennedy be pushing this narrative? So we're in a position now where we're talking about not just science. We're talking about life. We're talking about humanity. We're talking about spirituality. We're talking about how confused is everyone, and
Right.
you don't have to be.
Right.
You don't have to be confused. The media will make you confused, and that's
Yes.
their purpose.
Yes.
They're selling stuff, right? They're the merchants of chaos, right? What we call them, right? They sell chaos. You don't go to the news to watch beautiful stories. Sometimes at the end of the broadcast, they'll have like, and today a police officer found this little kitten stuck on a tree and he saved them. Boy, that was great. All right, folks, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. You know what I mean? And they'll give you just a little bit of thing just so you feel a little bit, so you can at least sleep. So then tomorrow we can give you more of the pain and the nonsense, right? So this is why I get so passionate about this and concerned, because I wish that we were talking about Brian Greene in schools and talking about these theories. And maybe there are some scientists and maybe there are some universities that are doing it, but the universities have been so indoctrinated by so much nonsense stuff that has nothing to do with their education. You pay all this money to go protest and to throw paint on paintings and to stop traffic and stuff and just disrupt places and it's being okay. There are political people that are saying that's fine, that's what you're supposed to do, and that's not what the Constitution says. We can protest, but it has to be peaceful and not disrupt the flow of society. Right. That's not what they're saying. That's not what it said. I mean, so you can't really they're teaching into the
fifth dimension.
Yeah, exactly. So
yeah, no, completely agree. And this is where we go back to the energy thing, right? At the end of the day, right? It's all about energy. So, and what I say and what I talk about, even on my show, and I kind of try to live my life this way, the energy that you take in and the energy that you put out into the world, be selective about it. Mm-hmm. Be intentional about it, okay? Because energy is is a thing. Energy, it makes a huge difference, right? The energy you have with your child, the energy you have with your parents, with your coworkers, and all these types of things. It's a big deal, and again, you can go in and with that, and with the high energy, that high spiritual energy, and make somebody's day who was having a bad day, and cancel that out for them and bring them up. Bring them up, bring those people up with you. Okay. And that energy, that in my view comes from the spiritual realm. Okay. That's, and these great people, these great philosophers, these great musicians, these great creators all had in really high levels. You don't have to be a great musician. You could just have a great energy when you walk in the room and lift somebody up. Right? Help somebody, do these things, and again, as John was talking about, all these narratives that are coming in, you don't have to let them in.
No.
You can choose to look at other things. You can choose to put your energy elsewhere, and do great things in life, and again, use that butterfly effect of, of the consciousness and basically kind of influencing other people and other beings in the world.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%, exactly. And we're at the top of the hour. I just wanted to share one final clip. There's a little bit of cursing in this because it's a funny clip. But Pete Holmes, who's a stand-up comedian, he posted this a while back, and I just thought it was funny because it kind of represents a little bit of how crazy the subject is.
Right.
You might have seen this before, but wait, not that. So here it is.
Nothing makes fucking sense. Life makes no sense. You're on a planet right now. You think you're in America? Zoom out. You're on a space rock floating in nothingness, infinite nothingness, and the infinite nothingness is expanding. That means endlessness is getting bigger. That makes no fucking sense. We all just act like it's normal. Like, oh, everything's made of molecules. Okay. Got it. I'll never think about that again. I'm made of molecules, you're made of molecules, the air between us, it's all made of molecules. That makes no fucking sense. These molecules know they're molecules. These molecules are like, oh, I'm Pete. That doesn't make any sense. This stool is made of molecules, the same molecules in my hand. In fact, some of the molecules in the stool went into me while I've been talking, and some that were me have gone into this stool. And when I knock these molecules into these molecules, when we ask science, why don't they go through each other? You know what the answer is? We don't know. That doesn't make any fucking sense.
Anyway, he's right. It doesn't. But I always found that funny because it doesn't. It doesn't. A lot of it. But when you listen to some of these incredible people, you can formulate something that does make sense.
Right.
And that's the key thing, to stay vigilant on your education and to stay ahead of the curve and to follow people that are pushing the envelope and really asking tough questions, and stay away from the news and stuff like that, because there's nothing in there that you'll ever learn anything. If you go to a news network, news story from 30 years ago, I guarantee you that it'll be pretty much the same. There's the war somewhere happening and we're in danger and the economy is bad and there's all that stuff. So, just stay vigilant, this is your life. You have a chance to do something here. Why not do something big, So I think it's important. All right, folks, I want to thank you for being on. Next week, we are super excited because we will have Mr. David Pomerantz is going to be on the show. He is, this guy has sold 40 million records internationally. I mean, he's at 18 Gold Records. He's written some of these great hit songs for so many artists, like, Barry Manilow is one of them. And he's written with Richard Marx and just so many other names that it's just incredible. So he's going to be on the show next week. We're going back to doing some interviews, and we're very psyched about having him as our first of official guest back after kind of a long time of a hiatus of interviewing people. So we're very excited. So that's next week. That is the 15th of September, and 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Please come on and tell your friends. We're very excited. We're gonna have a lot of people here because the word's getting out there. So it's gonna be a lot of fun. Great show. All right, folks. Thank you very much for tuning in. George, as always, a pleasure. Great conversation. We can do this again and have more conversation on this at some point. Appreciate it. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful week. Take care of yourselves. Let me see. Love you too, Sean. Thank
you, man.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. I will see you all next week. Take care of yourselves. And as always, peace.